What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, legendary, heavyweight, and cruiserweight, former undisputed heavyweight and cruiserweight, world champion, superstar, iconic boxer, Evander, the real deal Holyfield, believes he should be shined in a brighter light and be considered a better fighter in history than that of undefeated five-division world champion, former pound-for-pound king, retired 50-0, legendary, iconic boxer, Floyd Money Mayweather. Evander Holyfield, according to Evander Holyfield, he says that Floyd Mayweather can't be considered better than him, and he definitely can't be considered the greatest of all time because he never became undisputed in his career. Something Evander Holyfield did numerous of times. He was the undisputed cruiserweight champ in the 80s, and he was the undisputed heavyweight champ in the 90s. Now, Floyd Mayweather accomplished a lot of feats in his career, but Floyd Mayweather's goals became bigger than becoming undisputed. His name, his worth became bigger than titles within the sport of boxing. He just outgrew championship belts, and he never seeked to become undisputed. So Floyd Mayweather has a long list of accomplishments within the sport of boxing, starting from when he first started. He should have been a gold medalist in the Olympics. He ended up getting a bronze medal. But that was due to the fact that he was cheated out of his Olympic gold medal that he should have accomplished, a la Roy Jones as well. But let's just stick to Floyd Mayweather and Evander Holyfield. Floyd Mayweather, in his career, was a 15-time world champion. You heard it. Floyd Mayweather won 15 world titles. Let's just run down Floyd Mayweather's accomplishments, okay? During his career, he won 15 major world titles. Excuse me. Including the ring in 5 weight classes, the lineal championship in 4 weight classes, twice at welterweight, and he's retired undefeated. He won Olympic bronze medals, but 15 world titles, okay? He's a 5-division world champion. He retired undefeated. His goal became to break pay-per-view numbers, not to win world titles and not to be undisputed, okay? Different from Evander Holyfield. Now, Evander Holyfield's list of accomplishments is nothing short to sneeze at as well. Evander Holyfield was, like I said, was undefeated. Was an undefeated cruiserweight and became undisputed at cruiserweight in the 80s. Then he moved up to heavyweight division, and he became undisputed in the heavyweight division. Now, we have to remember, when he became undisputed, there wasn't 4 major sanction bodies, okay? It was the WBA, WBC, and the IBF. The WBO wasn't in existence or wasn't looked at and seen as a major sanction body. Currently, it's something similar to how the IBO is looked at today's time. But Evander Holyfield in the 80s was undisputed at cruiserweight, and in the 90s he was undisputed at heavyweight. We know he was setting up and lining up for that mega showdown between himself and former undisputed heavyweight, legendary, iconic boxer Iron Mike Tyson. But we know Iron Mike Tyson ended up losing to James Buster Douglas, in which Evander Holyfield went and beat James Buster Douglas and became undisputed. Okay, so the rest became history. With that said, Evander Holyfield is the only guy to be undisputed in 2 different weight classes. And he became unified after losing his undisputed titles in the heavyweight division. He became unified again. So let's just look at this, okay? Holyfield is the only 4-time world heavyweight champion as well, okay? Having held the unified WBA, WBC, and IBF titles from 1990 to 92. Then the WBA and the IBF titles again from 93 to 94. Then the WBA title a 3rd time from 96 to 99. Then the IBF title a 3rd time from 97 to 99. And the WBA title a 4th time from 2000 to 2001. So Evander Holyfield list of accomplishments is nothing short of greatness, right? legendary. Now, I believe that Floyd Mayweather could have become undisputed if he would have pursued that avenue. I think that Floyd Mayweather started to outgrow, like I said earlier, outgrow the world titles, outgrow winning world titles. He got bigger than the sport. Okay, Evander Holyfield was never bigger than the sport. In his era, Mike Tyson was bigger than the sport. Okay, Mike Tyson didn't need titles to validate him and his career and his star power and his selling power. And that's what Floyd Mayweather became, okay? Floyd Mayweather became a selling power, just his name alone. So he didn't have to collect world titles to be validated. So he never pursued undisputed in any weight class. He did look to fight the best. I know there's a stigma that gets attached to Floyd Mayweather that he cherry-picked, and that's completely not true. When he was Pretty Boy Floyd Mayweather, he tried to fight the likes of Prince Nassim Hamed. He tried to fight the likes of Aslan and Freitas. He tried to fight the likes of Costa Zoo. He tried to fight the likes of Shane Mosley in his prime back then. Shane Mosley said he had a toothache. He tried to fight Oscar De La Hoya in his prime. Oscar De La Hoya said he was too high of a risk, low reward. He was the golden goose, Oscar De La Hoya, at that point in time. He tried to fight, Joel Casamayor in his prime. And these are guys that just didn't want to give him the opportunity when he was Pretty Boy Floyd. So he grew a chip on his shoulder when he became Money Mayweather, and he was able to call the shots, and he started to want to, have fights on his terms, because the chip on his shoulder was, when you guys were in position, you didn't want to give me my opportunity. Now I'm in position, you could wait till I'm ready. But still in all, he still fought these guys, and he looked to fight the very best. I know a lot of people will say he fought Shane Mosley when Shane Mosley was 2-0. Well, you got to go back and do your history as to when he tried to fight Shane Mosley, when Shane Mosley was in the very prime of his career, and Shane Mosley directed Floyd Mayweather to go fight other guys like Antonio Margarito and, guys like Miguel Cotto, who another guy, Miguel Cotto in his prime, ducked Floyd Mayweather, sat ringside at a couple of Floyd Mayweather fights. Floyd Mayweather was trying to line that fight up, and they didn't want it. They pushed other people in the direction of Floyd Mayweather and to see how he would fare with guys of styles of Miguel Cotto. And when Floyd Mayweather was victorious against these guys, they didn't want Bob Arum didn't want to put Miguel Cotto in the ring with Floyd Mayweather because they pretty much can predict the outcome. And this was early in Miguel Cotto's career, and they just didn't want the fight. They ended up pushing, Henry Brucelis back in 2005, and after he fought DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley in 2004, he looked to fight Miguel Cotto, and they put Henry Brucelis in position to test the waters against Floyd Mayweather. If you didn't know, Henry Brucelis had a similar style to Miguel Cotto, and they put Henry Brucelis in the ring with Floyd Mayweather. He outclassed him, TKO'd him, stopped him, and then Miguel Cotto was sitting ringside, and the fight didn't come to fruition. They chose to go in a different direction, so he ended up not fighting Miguel Cotto until 6 years later, right? That's not Floyd Mayweather's fault. He tried to fight these guys in the prime of his career, Miguel Cotto, Shane Mosley, so on and such. But he just stopped pursuing Undisputed. He just stopped pursuing collecting belts. He started to say, belts do nothing for you when you retire, but collect does. He says belts don't feed your family. He outgrew the belts. He said, why am I paying sanction fees for belts, and I don't need them to validate who I am or to sell my fights? So he outgrew the belts, and he never pursued that avenue. So as far as Evander Holyfield saying that the reason that he can't place Floyd Mayweather as the greatest of all time or even better than himself because he never became undisputed, and undisputed is a great feat, a great accomplishment, but you got to understand that was just not the mindset of Floyd Mayweather. Should he have pursued that avenue, you best believe he could have become undisputed. It's just, the politics in the sport of boxing were different when Floyd Mayweather was reigning at that point in time to Evander Holyfield. And Evander Holyfield campaigning in weight classes like heavyweight and cruiserweight, there's not a lot of movement like it is in the junior welterweight, lightweight, featherweight, super featherweight, junior welterweight, and welterweight, and junior middleweight division. There's not a lot of movement with the world titles because it's a small division. It's a small world when you're dealing with the cruiserweights and the heavyweights. So it's easier to become undisputed as a cruiserweight and a heavyweight than it is in the lower weight classes. It's much more difficult to become undisputed in the lower weight classes because there's a lot of movement that takes place in the lower weight classes. So with that said, he definitely could have become undisputed if he would have pursued that avenue. That just became not a goal of his. He became unified. He just didn't choose to look to become undisputed. I wish he would have. I wish he would have pursued that avenue. He definitely would. He definitely could have. There was definitely nobody out there that was going to beat him and prevent him from becoming undisputed. But he just didn't want to deal with the politics of mandatory challenges and sanctioned body fees and things of that nature. And he started to do away with the titles. You could see after he beat Manny Pacquiao, he said that months after, he still never received, I believe it's the IBF title or the WBA. He said, I still never received that belt. They never gave it to me, but I officially won it, and it's okay. So like I said, he became a 15-time world champion. So, it wasn't like he couldn't pursue the avenue of becoming undisputed or, it's just that he didn't pursue it. So I think it's very difficult to judge him based off of that because he didn't pursue the avenue. And like I said, he had all the talent to beat, and there was nobody out there to beat him. None of the belt holders in any division that he campaigned in and around was going to be able to beat him or prevent him from becoming undisputed. It just would have been another accomplishment, another notch in the belt, or another feather in the cap for his legacy. But what Evander Holyfield accomplished in his career is second to none, right? But as far as him being better than Floyd Mayweather, career-wise, I have to disagree. Because, yes, he did become undisputed in 2 different weight classes. Yes, he is the only boxer to do so. Yes, he is the only heavyweight to be a 4-time world champion. But he accomplished these things by losing, right? As far as becoming a 4-time heavyweight world champion, because he lost, right? So, yes, Evander Holyfield is great. He beat some great fighters. He beat Riddick Bowe. He beat Mike Tyson. And I always am of the mindset and of the belief that even if he would have fought Mike Tyson, should Mike Tyson have beat James Buster Douglas that night, I think Evander Holyfield still would have beat Mike Tyson. I just think his style is all wrong for Mike Tyson. I think he's a bad matchup, and I think he has Mike Tyson's number. I think he always would have beaten Mike Tyson. But with that said, like I stated, it's very difficult to judge the two because Floyd Mayweather was a 5-division world champion. Evander Holyfield is undisputed in 2 weight classes. But those weight classes, like I said, there's not a lot of movement. So it's easier to tie down the other champions and become undisputed. And remember, there wasn't 4 major sanction bodies that needed to be held to be undisputed. There were only 3. So that made it even more easier for Evander Holyfield. And I'm not saying it was easy as far as accomplishing it. I'm just saying it was easier as far as the avenue to get to it. You understand? So it was a shorter distance to get to undisputed for Evander Holyfield in the heavyweight and the cruiserweight division than it is for Floyd Mayweather to tie down these fights in lightweight or junior welterweight or welterweight or super welterweight or junior middleweight. It's just difficult. It was difficult to do. Floyd Mayweather became a world champion at 130, 135, 140, 47, and 54. So with that said, he definitely could have become undisputed if he would have pursued that avenue. He just was disinterested in pursuing it, so he never did it. So you can't hold that against him for not being the greatest because he accomplished other things such as breaking all types of pay-per-view numbers. If you look at the pay-per-view sales and the pay-per-view numbers in the history of the sport of boxing, his attraction is second to none. His star power is second to none. Only that of Muhammad Ali can rival it. And with that said, that lets you know that if he so choose to say, I want to fight this guy who's a belt holder and win that belt, I want to fight this guy who's a belt holder and win that belt, people would have started to say he's cherry picking, because you got to remember the caliber of fighters that he was fighting. He was picking the best, and they weren't always the belt holders. So with that said, I can't knock him for not being undisputed. But at the same token, I can't knock Evander Holyfield for being undisputed. So they're both great in my eyes. I just personally favor Floyd Mayweather, because you had guys like Lennox Lewis that beat Evander Holyfield. I thought he beat him the first time and ended in a draw. Thought it was a clear victory for Lennox Lewis. And Evander Holyfield was never the absolute best in his era. So because of that, Floyd Mayweather was the best in his era. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, I got to give the edge to Floyd Mayweather. But that's all I got for y'all. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Raw. Make sure you like and share this video. And another thing I want to say is, you got to remember, Floyd Mayweather attraction became money, and title holders and champions, I want to say this correctly, on a lower level, didn't represent the biggest money, the biggest payday. So that's another reason why he went in a different direction. You got to think about that. So that's all I got for y'all, man. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue. I'm gone. Peace.